Sorry for the delays. We have everybody here, and I just wanted to welcome you to JSR's first ADU webinar. Woohoo! You can see us, but we can't see you, unfortunately. So we're going to have a format where I'm going to introduce Ira, and he's going to talk about ADUs, and then there will be, please save your questions, jot them down, and then there'll be a question answer afterwards. And what you'll do is you'll raise your hand by clicking on the Zoom to raise your hand, and they'll go in order, and we'll go through, and Ira will answer questions. And then toward the end, we'll open it up for everyone to ask questions, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to introduce ourselves a little bit and say hello to everyone. So I see a lot of friends and past clients. I'm so happy to see everyone. And I just want to welcome anyone that's new, that's not familiar with Stein Realty. We're a top producing real estate team in LA. And we have referred Ira to clients before, and he's amazing. So I want to say hello to everybody. And Tim wanted to say hello.
Yeah, hi. Hello to some of my friends who were able to join today. I'm really glad you could make it. Ira and I have known each other for more than 20 years. So you're in great hands. You're going to learn a lot now. And with that, why don't we turn it over to you, Ira, and let you introduce yourself.
Okay. Thank you all, Jen and Tim, for setting this up. I will give you all a history of how all this started, not just my business, but the whole ADU thing in LA. This is about 10 years worth. I'll try to sum this up in 5 minutes. Just so you know, I spent most of my life, probably about 30 years in the entertainment industry as a casting director and a talent manager. My wife was my business partner. And we had just finished building, we worked out of our house, and we just finished building this beautiful new 2-story garage rec room that was going to be our offices and entertainment center. And then this was late in 2008, and we had just finished it. And within a few months, my wife died. She died suddenly. She had battled Lyme disease for many years. And it was very sudden, and that just flipped my life around. And I had a 2-year-old son, and my business was falling apart, and my life was falling apart. And it was funny, we had finished this place, and we were showing it to a neighbor, and the neighbor was looking at it, and he said, wow, you know, you could rent this place out. And we looked at him and we said, why would we ever want to do that? And so at that point, I was kind of desperate. And I went to the city, and I thought, you know what, if I could turn this place into a rental apartment, I could put in a kitchen, make it a full rental unit, you know, it would really help me out financially. And, you know, I could spend time with my son and work out my life. And every door I went to in the city turned me down. They all said no. For whatever reason, it couldn't be done for this or that, setbacks, you know, ordinances. It was just a big flat out no. And so I decided, well, to hell with them, I'm going to do it anyway. And I did. And I found a great tenant. And that tenant was with me for years. And everything worked out great. Now, flash forward a lot of years later, and it's now late in 2014. And I'm remarried. I've got a second child on the way, and life's going pretty well. And my wife calls me up, and she says to me, there's some notice on our door from the city about an inspection. I said, oh, that's a mistake. You know, it must be for that guy doing the construction down the street. So we let that go. And about a week later, I got a letter in the mail demanding an inspection. Someone had reported me for having an illegal rental unit. So I let them in, and they were telling me, well, this is what I'm going to have to do. And what I would have to do would end up costing me about $50,000, and there'd be no guarantee that it would even be made into a rental unit. So my friends said to me, you need a lawyer. Get a lawyer right away. and you need a good land use attorney. So they recommended someone to me, and I went to this land use attorney. And by that point already, I'd spent about maybe $1,200. And I'd gotten all this information from the attorney, and she wanted to continue on. And I started doing my own research, because that's the kind of person I am. I like to study everything, read everything. And I couldn't believe this, but I found everything she had given me was wrong. This was all about ADU law. And I told her that, and I said, I want my money back. And she gave me the money back. I had to agree that I wouldn't sue her. And I thought to myself, you know what? I could do this on my own. You know, I can read everything and figure all this out. Now, at the same time, there was this retired, wealthy attorney who was suing his neighbor and the city because the neighbor was building this legal accessory dwelling unit. And this guy didn't like it because it was going to block his fabulous views. And I heard about this case and I started reading about it. And I thought, you know what? This is crazy. This guy's going to lose. So I went down to witness this. I wanted to see what was going on in the courtroom. And I was the only person from the public who showed up. And I was listening to this, and the judge rules in favor of the guy suing, and he rules against the city. Now, he was wrong. The judge was wrong. And I went over to the city attorney and I introduced myself. And of course, he couldn't discuss the case. I said, but the judge was wrong. And what happened from that was an odd series of events. And this was major news in the city at the time. Because of that judge's ruling, the city decided, in order to cover themselves, they needed to not only revoke that man's permit, but everyone else who was trying to get an ADU. That was 400 permits, including myself. All of these permits revoked immediately by the city. Now, these were people who were in various stages of trying to build an ADU. Some were in pre-planning, others were maybe 2 or 3 days away from getting their certificates of occupancy. And everyone was just stopped in their tracks. And we all started to meet each other. And we would go down to the city council, we'd protest, we'd do all these things together. And a few of us began to form as a group, and we kind of became the de facto leaders of the group. Now, at the same time, I had heard about Senator Bob Wachowski in Northern California, and he was working on a bill, as was Assemblymember Bloom. They were both working on bills to change the accessory dwelling unit laws in the state of California and make them more accessible to everyone. So I contacted him and I contacted Senator Wachowski and I said, we've got a large group of people down here and we can help you. And we will do whatever it is you want to help get these laws changed. And we did. We ran phone banks, we wrote letters. I mean, we would just, call up all the senators, all the assembly people. We started online petitions. And it all helped and it all worked. And at the end of 2016, the governor signed the first accessory dwelling unit law that changed everything in California. And during this whole process, I personally and our group, we were getting a lot of press, unsolicited press. They were writing articles in the LA Times, all these different Business Insider, and people started hearing about us. And people started calling me. And I mean, until all this happened, the only thing I knew about housing and real estate was I knew what a mortgage was. That was it, because I had one. I didn't know anything else. And all these people were calling me. And one day my wife says to me, you should start charging some of these people for what you're doing. And I said, oh, well, I don't know about that. And this one person called me who was really stuck. And he said, look, I've got my architect and the city is refusing to issue me this permit. So I said, well, you know what? How about I'll charge you $500? And he's like, $500? I said, yeah, I'll tell you what. If I get you the permit, you pay me the $500. If I don't get you the permit, you don't pay me. What have you got to lose? So I went down with him to the city and his architect. And we met with the planning person there. And this person was insisting, I'm sorry, he can't have this accessory dwelling unit like this. It's against our ordinances. They can't do it. And I said, well, things have changed and what you're saying is not correct. And I think we need to talk to a supervisor. So a supervisor came in, looked over the whole thing, and they said, well, you know, she's right. You can't have this. We're really sorry. You're going to have to adjust your plans. This won't work. And I said to both of them, you know what? You're both wrong. And I think we should contact, and I mentioned the name of someone who was one of the senior chiefs at Building and Safety. The man laughed at me and he said, I'm not calling him, you call him. So I did. And within 1 week, this guy had his permit. And I knew at that point, I had knowledge from all that studying and everything I had gone through. And I also realized how important information was to really know the property, to know everything about it. And so when I formulated my business, YIMBLA, I put that in as the first thing that has to be done is an analysis. And we take our time and we do that because the information on the property is so important. And you want to know everything about what can be done before you get to building and safety. So you have the advantage over them. And the business has grown, and you know, we've got a small office staff, and we have 4 architects and 2 builders and 2 structural engineers, a site surveyor, and 2 energy companies that we work with. And we get people ADUs, and we get people out of code enforcement, and we help them through the entire path. So I'll shut up now. And that's how all this started in LA and in California. And also, I'll just say too, I am constantly in touch with the state housing authority, the people who oversee all of the ADU laws. And there are plenty of municipalities still through the state of California that just don't comply. And that's just mind-boggling to me. And I will say, this LA has come a long way, maybe because I've beat them up, but they listen now, and they're actually quite good, far better than places like Pasadena. I have fought Pasadena, I've fought the city of Bell, the San Buenaventura, and I've gotten a lot of calls from people all over the state. Unfortunately, I can't do that kind of traveling. I've got 2 kids and a family, so I center it around the LA area. But yeah, there's still so much confusion, and it's mind-boggling how, look, we're YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard, Los Angeles, the opposite of a NIMBY, and not in my backyard. And there are plenty of municipalities that are still anti-accessory dwelling unit and try to, you know, put stops to keep people from building them, which is mind-boggling to me, because how is it hurting anybody? You know, it's helping people. You're creating housing, you're creating income for people, you're keeping families together. That's the beauty of an ADU. So, Jen, Tim, questions?
I believe we're going to put the raise hands, right? And then call on
Okay.
people.
And also remember, I've got some questions here that were given to me that were written also prior to this. So, you know, I could go to those at any time too.
So I just wanted to add that the reason why we brought Ira to you guys is because there are, you know, a lot of bad contractors. There's some bad ADU experts out there, and I trust Ira. I've had clients use someone else, and he's had to come in and fix it or advise. So I just want you to know that you're in good hands, and by answering your questions, you'll learn, you know, more and more about what he does. And then any questions that were not answered toward the end, we'll have him fill in. So with that, Samira, do you want to unmute the first person?
Yeah, are you going to be, okay, all right.
Oh, so if you want to ask a question, raise your hand. I see some, okay, I see some, here we go.
Looks like, are you able to hear me, Jen?
Yeah.
Okay. Ira,
Hi, Vanessa.
hi. Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Ira, this question is for you. If you're planning to buy a home with an existing ADU, how do you go about checking that all the T's and are crossed, I's are dotted, so to speak, with the permit of that? So you're not building one, it's already there.
Well, when you say ADU, you don't necessarily mean ADU. You mean there's some type of guest house on the property. Is that what you mean by that?
Oh, yes. Some of the listings actually call it ADU. Others
Okay,
call it guest house. Could you distinguish that, or just
100%, 100%. Well, first of all, if you're getting a bank loan, the person who does the appraiser will say whether they're going to include that in the square footage. If they're not including it in the square footage, it ain't kosher. It's not legal. Also, if it's legal, it will have a separate address, and it will be listed officially as an ADU. So if you're not getting any credit for it from the appraiser and it doesn't have a separate address, it's not a legal ADU.
Okay. And what would it be, a guest house at that point? Is there so there is a difference between the two?
Well, what city are you talking about?
Los Angeles, because I've noticed listings tend to list things as a casita or a guest house or ADU,
right. Well,
so they have different names for it. I didn't know they were different.
Right. So here's the thing. I mean, that's part of what we do in our analysis, because that's not a simple question. That's why it takes us 3 to 4 weeks to do our research. Okay. I can give you some general pointers. I mean, it would depend whether or not the thing was detached. If it's in a garage, okay, and they haven't replaced, if it's not a legal ADU and it's in a garage and they haven't replaced the parking, it's most likely not legal. If the lot is under 10,000 square feet, if it's over 10,000 square feet, it might have been an accessory living quarter, but not that many lots in the city of LA are over 10,000 square feet. So in all likelihood, if it has a full bathroom, it's probably not legal, because if they might say, well, it was a rec room can only have a toilet and a sink, and it can't have a kitchen. So when we do our analysis, we go deep. We're digging up every bit of information on the property, every permit, every last assessor record, and we're reviewing it. And we come out to the property and we spend about 2 to 3 hours there, and we measure everything, we photograph everything, and we research it. And when we come back in our analysis, we're giving you all of the options of what you can do, and we let you know definitively what's legal and what's not. Without that research, some of the points that I mentioned, those are some key things that can get you clues to the answer of that. And also, I have to say, I mean, Jen or Tim, I mean, if you ask a broker an outright question, they can't lie with the answer, right? They may say, we don't know, but if you say, is that a legal ADU? And they say yes, fraudulently, but they can't do that, right? Yes,
Yeah,
no, maybe.
I'll add to that. So that's a great question, Vanessa. So, a lot of times when I call on a house for a buyer and it says guest house or ADU, the first thing I do is call the listing agent or text them and ask them if the ADU is legal. Now, a lot of times they don't know. And if they don't know, they might say yes, or they might say, I think so, but I always 100% of the time double check. So if it's in the city of LA, I go to ladbs.org, which is where I can see permit histories, and you could see permit histories, and it will show the permit for the ADU. It'll show whether it's finalized or not. It'll show the separate address, like Ira said. If it's not in the city of LA, it might take a little bit more research, but that's really a great question. And then, as far as appraisal value that Ira was touching on before, that's a whole nother, it's a whole nother subject, but
Well, but if it's not a legal ADU, they're not given any credit for it.
exactly. They won't give it any value. Occasionally they'll throw in a little value because it can be a subjective process for the appraiser, but they're not going to give it the proper ADU value.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I think Mariko is next.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet everyone. Thanks so much for hosting. This is really wonderful as I'm seeing so many emails come in with different types of consultants. And so my question is specifically on what is allowed in regards to ADUs and JADUs on R2 zone lots with existing duplexes. If that's allowed, I'm not really finding a lot of literature online, but my understanding is that for the first time since since I think it was late 2020, they passed a law that actually allows for ADUs on R2 zone lots with existing duplexes. So I just wanted to confirm if that was true or not. And in addition to that, if you're allowed to build a JADU on the same lot.
Okay, great questions. So I could tell you right now definitively, JADUs are not allowed on multifamily lots at all. JADUs are only allowed on single family properties inside a single family house, not detached. It has to be inside an existing space inside that house. It could be in an attached garage. A JADU can't be more than 500 square feet. And for a JADU, you must sign a covenant with the county and with a JADU stating that you won't sell it separately, but also with a JADU, the owner of the property must maintain their residency on that property. So they have to live on that property, whether it's in the main house or in the JADU. Now in an R2 zone, now are you talking about an R2 zone where there is a duplex, not a single family house, correct? There's a
Correct.
duplex
It's
on the
R2
R2.
zone. Correct. R2 with an existing duplex.
Okay.
And above a 4-car garage, there's
Okay.
a permitted rec room already.
Mhm.
So my question on this specific subject property is whether or not the permitted rec room above the 4-car garage can legally be converted into an ADU. And if in addition to that, one of the 4-car garages could be converted into a JADU.
Okay.
It's under
So
400
there are these possibilities. It gets a little complex. So you could create one whole ADU out of that structure, where like you could make one large ADU with the one on top and the one underneath. Now, when it comes to the ADUs on multifamily lots, they can't be higher than I believe it's 16 feet in height. So there is a way to create one large ADU. If you want the smaller ADUs where you're creating more than one, then another part of state law kicks in where they can't be taller than 16 feet. Now, when you have, how high is that rec room above that garage? Do you know?
Yes, I believe the ceiling height on the rec room
It's
above
not the ceiling height, it's the top of the roof.
the total is definitely over 16 feet because it's above the garage. It's a 2-story structure.
Right. So now you're getting into an area of ADU law that's a little iffy. And this could become an issue with the city. So the law is that you can create 2 detached ADUs, but they can't be higher than 16 feet in height, and they have to have 4-foot rear and side setbacks. Now, the state says, this is getting complicated. The state says that if it's a conversion, you don't have to meet those standards. The city, on the other hand, disagrees with that. So you can absolutely create a large ADU with that top and with the bottom. The question is, because that one is over 16 feet, would they allow you to make 2? That is a question that would have to be determined. Now, another thing is you could also add, in addition to that, you could add an ADU in unused space, one single ADU in any non-habitable space that may be part of the duplex. So technically you have the potential to have 5 units on that property. I don't know if you have any space like that, like maybe
on this property, there's no possibility for that.
Right,
So we
right.
would be restricted to the constraints of
Right. So the JADU is definitely out. One ADU, including that rec room, is in. Whether or not you could have both is questionable because of the height of the other unit. So that's something that would have to be determined, and that's an example of something we would do in our process.
Okay, so to clarify, because I do find when we're looking at income properties, duplexes, there's a lot of times there are these kind of granny flats, as they've called them, oftentimes unpermitted, but there are those that are permitted rec rooms above garages. So you're saying if the total height of the garage plus the rec room above the garage exceeds 16 feet, but the rec room was already permitted, state law does allow the conversion of the existing rec room to be converted to an ADU, but LA City doesn't explicitly state that that conversion would be okay because it doesn't meet the 16 feet requirement.
Well, no. The city would allow you to do it for sure if it was just one. So you could convert that rec room, and you could even include that carport space underneath. And in fact, you might even be able to include all of the carport space underneath and the rec room on top to create one large ADU. Whatever that, and that could be more than 1,200 square feet. It's whatever is there. It's whatever is there could be converted as one. The question is unclear is whether, because of that height, would you still be able to create 2? But you could use all of those carports and put them together with the rec room on top and make one giant ADU. Whether or not you could divide those carports and make 2, that's unclear.
Understood. And then my final follow-up question to this is, what would the parking requirements be if one could convert that into the rec room into an ADU? Are there no parking requirements that need to be?
Zero.
Great.
So there would be
wonderful.
no parking requirements for the existing duplex.
That's right. And you better have some good conversations with your tenants, because they're going to be upset that you're taking away their parking, but legally you don't have to have it. But of course, I would be careful with that, because if you've got a lease with them that states parking, you want to work something out.
Great. Currently, we've got no parking included on this particular property. So I will definitely be calling you. Thank you so much for answering this question.
I just want to interject before we go to the next person. First of all, great questions so far. Thank you, Mariko and Vanessa. That Again, we'll open up at the end for questions, but then also Ira offers a free 15-minute consult. So anybody can call him with your, individual issues or questions to get, in more detail, Okay, so next is Vanessa again, or where are we? Samira? Oh, Shalini.
Shalini.
Hi, can you hear us?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that was an accident. I don't
Okay.
I don't have a question. Although what would be helpful, because I'm new to the whole ADU thing, just completely, and it's something that has been on my mind. If there is like some kind of checklist somewhere that we could use as reference, or if you could provide that, that would be wonderful for new people like myself.
Yeah, we have our checklist when we come out to the property.
Oh, okay, got you.
Ira, is there some summary info about ADUs on your website?
I'm sorry, is there a summary of what?
Is there any summary information about ADUs on your website?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think there is. A summary in terms of just general summary about
Yeah.
it. I mean, what I have is I've got blog questions on the website where people have asked us questions and we've answered them, specifics.
Okay, and and one of the reasons for this is because, as Ira explained, it's been so complicated and it was such a mess until Ira fixed it. Thank you.
No, well,
Thank you.
thanks, Senator Rakowski, really. I mean,
ADU guru. And it has also been a constantly changing entity. So it really, sometimes it is case by case.
I have to say, I mean, I'm kind of in shock. There's a bill now. It's by Senator Henry Stern. I just read it. He's the actor Daniel Stern's son, and it's mind-boggling. They are attempting to reduce the setbacks. So it's a bill that, and I'm against it, and so are other people. There are petitions circulating. They're attempting to, if you have an ordinance currently, then you stick with the 4-foot rear, 4-foot side setbacks. But there are municipalities that don't like that, and so they're trying to change the state law where if you had a larger setback, I think LA originally had 15 feet setbacks in the rear, which was almost impossible to meet. And I think Pasadena might have had something like a 20 or 25 foot setback. And they're saying that if you had setbacks prior to a certain date, you could revert to those setbacks again. So people are constant to undo what's been done.
Okay.
And I thought the fights were over, and they're not.
Thank you. Jason, I think you're up.
Hi, guys. Thanks a lot for doing this. This is very informative. Appreciate it. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, I live in El Segundo. We're on the south side of LAX. It's part of Los Angeles, but we have our own buildings department. So I wondered, number one, if they're following the LA guidelines and the state guidelines, or if they can, enforce their own rules. That's the first part of a question. The second part is here, most of the homes here, the garages are in the front of the home. And I'd like to build an ADU, go up, build one upstairs, and then build a downstairs one as well. And would the junior ADU rules cover me on that?
Okay. So El Segundo, great questions, by the way, Jason. Thank you. El Segundo is its own city.
Yes.
It's its own incorporated city.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. So then they're not under LA County. I mean, they're part of the county, but they're not under LA County. They are their own city, correct?
Correct.
I believe so. Okay. So if they're their own city, they may or may not have an ADU ordinance. And I stopped reading all of them a long time ago because they're just too many. Every single city, wrote their own. So usually when a job comes up for us, that's when I look up a particular ordinance if it's there and I study it. Now, I will tell you this, like we're doing our first job now in West Hollywood. And I had to get double confirmation from the state on this because it was mind-boggling to me. In West Hollywood, they are prohibiting second-story ADUs if the second story didn't exist, and they have the legal right to do that. So does El Segundo have to abide by state law? Yes. If they made their own ordinance, could they prevent something like a second story? Yes. So
Let me just say here,
what's in their ordinance?
right. Let me just say here, there's kind of a, a small building boom here, and a lot of people are putting in ADUs. There are some that are above garages, some that aren't. So I think they're,
Okay. So if they're allowing second story, then you could put a second story above the garage. That could be your attached ADU, and the garage can be your JADU. Absolutely a possibility.
Okay. Let me ask about, because you said about the owner occupancy constraints. I had seen a video, and I think it was you, that talked about that there was a 5-year moratorium on the owner occupancy constraints. That they're not, when you build a junior ADU.
No, there's no moratorium on, you're confusing a couple of issues. There is a 5-year, if you're putting code enforcement, if it can be proven that you're not a safety hazard, you would be able to have a 5-year reprieve on doing what you need to do to get it up to code. As far as JADUs go, no. JADU is a separate animal, and it was a separate bill that was passed. And it wasn't until a year ago, if a municipality didn't have a JADU ordinance, they couldn't have one. And so when LA finally rewrote their ordinances, they put JADUs in it. JADUs always, the property in some way always has to be owner occupied if there's a JADU. Now the question is, who's policing that? Well, the thing is, maybe no one, and maybe you could do it, but if someone from the city comes around, you're going to have to prove you live there.
I see. Okay. So that'll always be in place if you have
as long as
a junior ADU, you can't rent your house and then the two units and go someplace else. Right.
Not with the JADU. Like in that scenario with, the woman who was asking about the duplex, if she was able to put 5 in there, she could rent all of them and leave.
Right.
But not with the JADU, because the JADU has special, I guess there was a special purpose to the JADU, and it's being tweaked, but right now the property still has to be owner occupied with the JADU, and people are asking for those covenants.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say we have at least 5 more people with questions. I just want you to know we will go past 1 o'clock, so we'll go to 1:15 or 1:30 or whatever it takes to answer everybody's questions.
I have to say I'm going to need to be out by 1:20 at the latest.
Okay, 1:20. Tina.
So Scott is actually up next.
Scott.
Great.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Scott.
And we're grateful that you're putting this on. And Tim has been really very helpful. My wife and I just moved to this area about a year ago, and he's shown us some properties, and we appreciate it. We actually live around the corner from Tim. So thank you, Tim, for inviting us to this. So we've been in the process of converting our ADU or refurbishing it, and it's taken about 5 months. So one question I have is we've been told that because of COVID, everything's been delayed, and I understand that. I just want to know if it's normal to wait 5-6 months for kind of any type of response. That's the first thing. Second question is, we're looking at converting our ADU into, we wanted to do it into 2 stories. We got the 16 feet kind of regulation that we understand. So we thought about maybe putting in a loft, and whether or not, this is again in the Hancock Park area, whether or not that's possible. And if not a loft, then my wife had the idea of maybe digging into the ground a little bit to give us a little bit more space. So we just wanted to find out if those are kosher in the rules of kind of preparing the ADU.
Well, thanks, Scott. Good question. So when you say you're in the process of redoing your ADU, do you mean that it's actually a legally permitted ADU?
You know what, yeah, we have the permit. I'm pretty sure that we bought this place about 1.5 years ago, and we have a
permit so far.
Well, does it have a second address?
Yes, we did.
it doesn't have a second address.
No, we didn't
Okay.
have, we are applying the permit.
No, we have it for the existing one.
Okay, so if there's no second address, you don't have an ADU.
No, we don't
Okay.
have a second address.
Okay, got it. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it normal? I mean, I tell all my clients 3 to 6 months, absolutely. It's interesting that even with COVID, there's no real reprieve for any city. I mean, I'm working on one in Inglewood. It's taken, we're on month 6 already. I did one in Glendale. It took 6 months. They're supposed to issue you a permit within 60 days now. That's what the state law changed. Now, that's upon presenting a fully completed permit application with all required documents and your completed plans. Now, when they hand them back to you, the clock stops. It would be hard pressed to try to push them into speeding up the process more because of COVID. Might they be slowing down? Yeah, it's really possible. Now, since you live in Hancock Park, you are in HPOZ, correct? You're historic?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so then you're also dealing with the planning department on the HPOZ side. Now, it's not, that is burial. It's not, you can't go before any of the historic boards or anything like that. There's one person, I think it's, is it Suki who's doing, do you know who's doing yours? She was the Hancock Park person for a while, for the planning department. And she reviews it. Now, as far as the 16-foot thing goes, why are you saying you're limited to 16 feet there? Did someone tell you that from planning or the HPOZ section?
Not from planning or the HPOC. We hired a company to try to help us do this, and they said that we're limited to 16 feet.
No, the provider first plan to city give us a feedback.
And the city said that you were limited to 16 feet
Yeah.
at a
Yes.
single family house?
Yeah, yep, that's correct.
And who exactly told you that? Was it a planner in plan check?
The city feedback.
It was the city feedback through the construction company that we hired.
Okay, I'm not sure that's correct.
Right.
And the only reason, you're talking about a single family house. This is a detached garage, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Unless there is something in the HPOZ designation, 3 years ago, the HPOZ department said they were not allowing second stories at all, only if the second story existed. Now, at the time, they didn't have an ordinance, and that wasn't allowed, but no one challenged them on that. I would, this is one of the things where, we would do in our research. I'm not sure that's correct. I don't see an outright reason why it would be limited to 16 feet on a single family property unless it was HPOZ related. And if it is HPOZ related, I'm not sure that's in the city's ordinance. So I honestly don't know if they can get away with that. I can't tell you that for certain, but I'm not sure they can.
Okay.
And I would get, what I would be asking for is, first of all, never, ever take someone's word from anybody, okay? Get it in writing. So what you want is, you want the code in writing that states where and why it's 16 feet. Get that, and you know what? Get that, and then call me with it, okay? I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna interject. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to answer all their questions. So Scott, feel free to call
Fair enough.
Ira.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so
all
much.
of our contact information is in the chat. So if you guys want to jot that down or copy that down, and that way, I want you to make sure that you feel like your questions are answered, so you'll be able to chat with Ira later.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Jen. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Well, nice to hear you.
Yes. Well, I'm looking at you, not creepily. Anyway, so thank you for having me on. My question is, Jen might remember, I have, I think it's classified a multi-family dwelling, but it's actually 2 single-family homes, both with their own addresses. But there's also a detached garage. I'm in Los Angeles, Atwater Village. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about the parking thing. I've heard that you have to provide parking. Now, like the other person, my lease does, because I rent out the front house, the lease specifically says no parking, and I use the driveway for me. But the driveway, of course, leads to the garage, and I thought there was something about you had to provide parking.
Are you talking about building a separate ADU, or are you talking about converting one of those detached garages?
There is one detached garage that is a single story that I'm thinking possibly in the future of converting into an ADU. And to clarify, I don't think you actually have to, like you don't have to make the parking available, but it has to be there or something.
Not correct. If you convert that garage, the parking that whatever unit that parking was for no longer needs the parking. Only
because of the new ADU rules. It used to.
Yeah, and also you don't need the parking for the ADU itself, and you don't need the parking because you're converting a garage. You don't need the parking for the ADU, and you don't need the parking for the main house that the garage is being taken from.
So do you need, so it is, Ira, this is a legal duplex, even though they're 2 separate structures. So would you need parking for one of the houses?
Well, if it's one single garage, it's only parking for one of the houses, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, the garage only holds one car.
Nowadays, yeah, I'm sure when it was built, maybe it allowed
maybe a 1.5.
Okay, well, if you're converting if that garage, however big it was meant for both the units, then both the units don't have to have parking.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. I believe next is Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks for being here. So it's sort of, I'm following up with this whole duplex 4-car garage thing. This person, Mariko, I think, asked pretty much the same question that I was about to ask, but I would like to clarify with the 16-foot thing. Is that, so that only applies if you have a duplex, an R2 zoning, and you can't build over 16 feet on the garage?
That's in the city of Los Angeles.
I'm in mid-city, so yes, that would apply to me.
Okay, because like I was saying before, like West Hollywood is different, and West Hollywood is going by a 16-foot height maximum. Just to say back to that other gentleman in Hancock Park, yes, he can most likely go down. Also, I didn't answer that part of the question. You can go down. if you are converting, I'm sorry, on the duplex, you're looking to do 2 units?
All right, so I have a duplex and I have a very big 4-car garage.
Mhm.
And I would like to, I'm not sure, but I would like to go up on the garage, like possibly use the back half of the garage and build like a 2-story ADU, a
Mhm.
little sort of townhouse style
Mhm,
situation,
Mhm.
if it's affordable, you know. But if you're saying we can only go up 16 feet, that may not really work.
Well, you can only go up 16 feet if you want 2 units out of those garages. Okay.
Mhm.
Now,
If I only wanted one,
if you only wanted one, then you're only limited by the height of the zone.
okay. And the other question I have then is, how do we have, like, this might be something I just need to, like, with access, right? Like to the backyard, is that an issue, or we
Well,
just create?
you have to have clear access to the ADU. So there has to be a way to come and go. You know, absolutely. There has to be fire access. A fire truck has to be able to get a hose down there, and the person has to be able to get in. They have to have their own entrance, and they have to have a clear path to get to that entrance.
Okay, so okay, and you're saying that we don't have to, if we have existing garage space, we could get rid of all of it technically, if we don't provide parking to our tenant.
Well, look, even if you did provide parking to your tenant, that's between you and your tenant.
No, I mean, we use it for storage. We don't use it for parking at this point anyway. I mean, but I think the city used to come and make you clear out your garage for parking, but so with the ADU thing, that's not the case anymore.
Right. You could take the whole thing and convert everything you have there into an ADU and build up. And by building up, you can make the whole thing a maximum of 1,200 square feet. And if your garage is right now total 1,200 square feet, you're not going to be able to do more. You're just going to be able to convert what you have. But if you want to go up, you can make the whole thing into a total of 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
If you wanted to create more than 1 unit, then that 16-foot height limit would come into effect.
I see, but I could create 2 and just keep them small. Okay.
Smaller, yes.
It's a very interesting situation. I think I'm going to have to call you for the consult.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Hi, Susan. Susan, are you on?
Wait, hold on. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How you been?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. Eric is sitting here with me and he had a question for you guys.
Hi, Eric.
Good day, and thank you for having this session. I really appreciate it. I wanted to first of all let you know about my situation. I have a property that I inherited from my family. And back in the 50s, my parents bought this property. And after they had moved in, my grandmother wanted to come in from the South. So they said, okay, Grandma, come on in. And we're going to, create, we have a garage, we're going to convert it for you. They converted it. That was about 60 years ago. And we've updated it a couple of times, but we still have it. I don't recall any permits ever pulled for that. So what is my situation on that?
What city are you in?
Los Angeles.
The actual city of Los Angeles?
Yes, about 13 blocks from USC.
Okay. As long as you're within the city, so you're within the city regulations. You can legalize it. I can't say it would be without problems. Do you happen to know if they built any unpermitted structure onto what was there originally?
No.
You're absolutely certain?
Well, it's just, I just know a square, it was a square garage. They had,
Right.
a little kitchen, a little bath area and sleeping area.
Right. Well, it's interesting because a lot of people, think, oh yeah, that's the original. And, when we come out and we're doing our job, we say, well, wait a second, where did this extra 100 square feet come from? Where did this extra 200 square feet come from? Because that's not what we're finding. So you can do it. It's a process. If it is absolutely the original garage, the original permitted garage, there is absolutely no problem with converting the entire thing, making it legal. It is a process, and you may have to undo a lot of what's been done and redo it and open it up, because what you have to realize is right now it's legally still an empty garage. So everything that was done to it technically doesn't exist. And that's how the city treats it. So everything that, in order to convert it today, everything has to be done by today's code standards. Can you do it? Yes. Is it possible you might have to strip the thing and kind of start over? That's also possible too. Everything has to be inspected. Most likely you're not going to have windows and doors that meet the current energy requirement. I could bet you anything, if you even have insulation in it, I could tell you the insulation, unless you put it in, a month ago, does not meet the current requirements. So it's a process.
And it's obviously, it's costly. So a lot of people ask, can I legalize my existing non-permitted guest house or garage or whatever it is? The answer is, most of the time, the answer is yes, of course, anything's possible, but it's going to cost money. And there's no way to know what it's going to cost until you hire somebody to come out and analyze it.
I just want to say what I used to say was, before January 1st, 2017, you couldn't fix anything. It was, tear it down and put it back to what it was. Post January 1st, 2017, it's nothing money can't fix.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But there is a giant misnomer that, hey, it's only going to take $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 to do an ADU. None of that's realistic. It's per IRA, it's probably a minimum of,
between planning and permitting, and you're probably looking at, you're looking at $100,000 at least, if not more.
That's the bad news. Sorry, Eric.
I know.
Thank you.
But I can talk to you more about that offline.
Thank you.
So the follow-up question is that I heard, which is valuable, that I heard that the city is trying to promote ADUs because of a housing shortage. Is that correct? And that they're making it simpler for you to go through that process?
I guess it depends what your definition of simpler is. Everyone seems to think that because we have a housing shortage and they're promoting ADUs, it's a real simple process. It's not. You have to think of it as you're building a house. It may be a smaller house, but you're basically building a house, and you're building a house from scratch, even if the thing exists already. All the things that go into a new house is what has to go into that house.
Yeah,
I see.
I'd like to interject that, a garage was not built to be habitable. So the garage does not have the proper foundation for a living space.
Right.
And this is one of the most expensive parts of converting a garage to an ADU. Now, if you have, a 3-bedroom house and you want to change it to a 2-bedroom house plus an ADU, that 3rd bedroom that's already permitted happens to have the proper foundation for a living space. So it's a different animal.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Jen.
Great to see you. Royce is next, and he's the last one with his hand up. So if anybody else wants to ask a question, you can either put your hand up, or after Royce, we're going to open it up to the floor for general questions. And also, just to tag on to that great question that Susan and Eric had, somebody typed into the chat about, what's the simplest way if you're looking at a house to buy to know if the garage can be converted to an ADU. And I think I had a question also on this realm, which is that there are setback requirements for the ADU. So is that true even if you have an existing garage and it's on the property line? And what do you do with that?
No. And if that garage is legal and it's on the property line, not only can you legally convert that garage and keep those setbacks, but now, as of this past year, you could tear the whole garage down and rebuild it in the exact same location.
Fantastic. And then the other piece of that was back in the day, and I don't know whether this is still true, that you could not do an ADU if the house was on a street that the city considered a hill.
Right. So that's been, a lot of protests and city council hearings. So the way the city did that is, so they, in their ordinance, they said no ADUs in Hillside unless, and then of course there were a lot of caveats. There are two areas of Hillside in the city of LA. They're more east, and they're exempt from this. If you are in a non-exempt area, you could build a new ADU, but you have to, I believe, have fire sprinklers and provide parking. It's a list of things. However, they cannot prevent conversions of legally existing space, no matter what area you're in. And with conversions, they can't apply all of those things that they're asking for in Hillside if you're not in an approved zone. So conversions trump everything.
So that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, Royce, go for it.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. I'm a friend of Tim's.
Hi.
Mine was sort of COVID related as well, but we had started the process before COVID and then got the permits, got the ready to issue and all that stuff, but never found a contractor or never could settle on one. And I got an email recently from my architect saying that because of the mayor's emergency order, the plan check permits are being tolled, which I think means like they don't expire right now.
That's funny because I've gotten different things from different people with regards to that. I was told that the mayor was extending it through COVID, but when is that? I could tell you, I personally just picked up, started again with an old client whose permit expired last November, technically. And the 2-year mark is coming up in a couple of weeks. And our plan checker said, the mayor has extended it. We don't know for how long. Whereas the inspection department said, well, it's passed. If you want to do it, call us back and we'll work something out. So what we did was we just ignored that, and we called for an inspection, and we got it. So it seems to be moving ahead now. The permits are good for 18 months generally in normal times, and you can purchase without issue, and it's not very much money. It's only a few $100s. You can purchase a 6-month extension, and the 6-month extensions are always granted. It's going beyond that that sometimes is not. So I'm sorry, how long did you say you've had your permit already?
Probably a year and a half, something like that.
What I would do is, have you called for a pre-inspection?
Not yet. We never got to that point. And then once COVID hit, we just sort of put it on.
I would do that and get it in the system, get it moving in the system. Just call for a pre-inspection. You don't need anyone there with you. Just come out, have the inspector come out, walk around with you, take some notes about, are you converting or building new?
This is a garage conversion.
Yeah, so you know what, have a pen and paper with you and meet the inspector and have him come out, call it in and let him come out, and then you'll be in the system as moving ahead, and they'll most likely honor it. And then just say to him, where do you want us to start?
And then would part of your services be, I know you guys, sounds like you guys do a lot of legwork up front, but I'm already past a lot of that, but I need someone to build it. Is that
Right.
you
Let's
guys are?
talk about that, because usually with our builders, I'm willing to discuss that with you. Usually with our builders, it's from the people that have gone through all of our phases. It's like, bathrooms are for, in the restrooms and restaurants are for paying customers. But you can call me and we can discuss it.
Okay.
Awesome. It's actually perfect timing, Royce. Sorry. We have 5 more minutes of Tim's time, and then, of Ira's time, and then Tim and I will stay on after in case there's anything really lingering. So there's some questions in the chat. And Samira, will you unmute everybody in case someone has a burning question related to this, please? Do you recommend—
So everybody, oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just so you know, everybody has the permission to talk. So if you do have a question, just unmute yourselves and you'll be able to chat.
Perfect. So one was, can you provide a cost range for ADU construction, i.e. $300 a square foot, including permits?
Yeah, that's what I would go with, around 300.
Right on.
No, 300 a square foot plus permits and architect and structural engineering and Title 24 energy and site survey. Yeah.
Okay. So for a 1-car garage, it's about 200 square feet. You're looking at 660 grand. And a 2-car garage, 400 square foot, you're looking at approximately 120 grand, ballparkish. Okay, thank you. Do you recommend modular or traditionally built ADUs?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I have never worked with modular. I've seen them. There are specific codes that have to be met. We've never done a modular unit. We've done a lot. We work on stick construction, so as it's called. So I can't give you an honest opinion. Some of them look real cute, and those companies usually they'll take care of everything for you. I know they're not necessarily cheap either. So it may, if you're thinking you're going to save money on it, that may not be the case. I saw one place that they were charging between 100 to 400,000, and the 100,000 units didn't even have bathrooms or kitchens. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Approximately how long does the build out take for an ADU?
When people call me and they say, like last week, we really want to get this done by summer. I said, well, you're not getting it done by summer with us. So, and I don't know who's going to get that done. I tell people you're looking at a year.
Wow. And is that longer now during COVID?
Not necessarily. I mean, from start to finish, from when we do our analysis, which takes a month, and then if you were going to go right into it, planning and permitting, that's 3 to 6 months, if that goes along on schedule. And then, building the unit, I would absolutely put in another half a year to that. So you need to think here.
Along those lines, about how long does it take just to get the permit?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying 3 to 6 months. Technically,
okay.
And that's for the whole process of, doing the architectural drawings, getting the site survey, doing the structural engineering. Technically, the city is supposed to give you the permit within 60 days now. But because of COVID, that hasn't been happening. And also, when they give it back to you, the clock stops. So it depends on how much time you take to do all the revisions that you're asked for from the plan checker.
Awesome. I think we hit all the questions in the chat. I apologize if we did not yet. We have about 2 more minutes of Ira's time.
I actually got word I can go to 1:30 now.
Yay.
Okay. So
fantastic.
I could answer more, or if you want, I could address those questions that came in, or whatever you'd like.
I think we've addressed all the questions that came in.
No, I mean on the list that I got earlier.
Yeah, oh, that one, okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, I don't know if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead,
great.
Marika.
So if a property goes from 2 units to 5 units through this process, does this then become a commercial property from financing purposes? I recently spoke to a lender who
Great
said
question.
that the Fannie Mae guidelines haven't quite caught up to
Right.
the city
Yeah.
law. So I'm, from resale purposes, trying to understand what that looks like.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I can't answer that question. This is so new.
Okay.
And I don't know anyone who's done it yet. And I'm not sure anyone has. So I honestly can't give you the answer to that. I don't know.
Okay, and then just really quickly, if it just goes from 2 to 4 units and it's not a commercial, but they're legalized 2 additional ADUs or 1 ADU and J ADU, then I guess I'd open this up to Jen as well and any other realtor listening. Would it then kind of be appraised as a 4-unit, a legal 4-unit building, as opposed to what it once was, you know, if it started off as a 2-unit or 3-unit?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna let you start, Ira, on that one.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. So that's been the biggest issue so far in terms of even people getting financing.
Yeah.
The banks have not caught up with this. I think because there haven't been many sales of properties with legal ADUs.
Correct.
And certainly the appraisers have not caught up with it yet. And so, you know, maybe they would say it's a 4-plex, maybe they wouldn't. I mean, it might actually be the opinion of an individual appraiser. That's possible. And their relationship with the bank. I mean, Jen, do you have a different answer?
No, it's been very gray. Let's just call it a gray area. That's exactly what I tell people, is that the lenders have not caught up with the cities and what they're doing with ADUs. So I have sold a duplex where the appraiser considered the ADU as the house and the ADU as a duplex, and another one where they considered it a single family and counted the ADU square footage. There was one last year where they didn't even give the ADU value at all. It's a bit all over the place, but my best guess.
They didn't give it as, excuse me, they didn't even give it legal square footage. They didn't give any part of the legal square footage value?
No, but I think it was that particular, you know, it was either that particular appraiser or lender, right? So, but Marika, I mean, certainly it's going to add value to the property. We just can't tell you exactly how the appraiser is going to look at it. And most likely, you know, in the future, most likely they would look at it as 4 units and they would use an income approach on that, because it's already an income property.
Yeah, clear. Okay.
Ira, I'd like to ask one of the questions that I know came in earlier, and that has to do with the, if you say you've got a single family house and then you build an ADU, what happens, and say you've owned the house for 20 or 30 years, so you've got a pretty low property tax base. What happens with that once an ADU is constructed, and do you then suddenly get reassessed at the full current market value, or somewhere in the middle? No,
nowhere. No, because we have Prop 13, houses are only reassessed when they're passed on or sold. So because of that, it's only assessed as construction costs. So whatever you're putting in, the value of what you're putting in for the construction is what's assessed, not the new possible value of the property because you have the ADU.
Great question.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hey, Jen, it's Tina again.
Hi, Tina again.
Hi. So it's slightly off topics, which is why I didn't kind of push it earlier. But since we have a little bit of time, so I currently don't have an ADU, but I do have this rental in front. And so it's back to the parking question. Because I don't have an ADU, am I still required to provide space for parking to my tenants, even though it's not in the lease, it says no parking?
So this is the one we talked about before, Ira, where it has the garage at the end of the driveway. And I believe you said that if the garage was considered parking for both units before.
I mean, now, see, now you're getting into like a rental housing question. I mean, I would think that however that the houses were built and approved, that's the parking that comes with it. So if you have two older houses that were built with this one small garage, that's called existing non-conforming. And so you're not required to, if that's the case, you're certainly not required to go build some new garage. If that parking is what's there for the property, that's it. However it's used, that's how it's used. You know, that's what becomes the term existing non-conforming. So you wouldn't have to build new parking for someone for a property that's already there and built.
Gotcha. But I can't like kind of, plant a garden in the driveway that would block off this garage that's supposed to be for parking if I don't convert the garage into an ADU.
Well, yeah, maybe not. I mean, I guess, again, you're getting into housing law here, not ADU law. I can't really give you that answer. I mean, I'm guessing that you're, since these are 2 units, do they fall under rent control?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I mean, I don't think, I've read the rent control ordinance. I don't think there's anything about required parking in it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure you're required to ever give anyone parking.
Probably. I mean, I've seen people turn their driveways into a garden or yard, or I think the biggest issue would be if somebody reported you.
Well, no, honestly,
we're not sure.
I'm not even sure about that. Report her for what? Report her. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know what? You may need to maintain. Well, here's the thing. Okay, here it is. You may need to maintain that access to the parking, but you don't necessarily have to give the parking to anyone who lives on the property.
Right.
That may be it. That may be it. And that's something that's not an ADU question. That's something that would be in the municipal code.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much for your expertise. I know that was a little off topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. All right, so I think we'll just take the last couple minutes just to thank everybody for participating. This has been awesome.
Thank you for setting it up. Thank you.
Thank you,
so much.
Tim and Samira. It was Tim's wonderful idea to bring Ira to more of the world. And again, I shared Ira's information in the chat with everybody, so you should have it. And Samira, what will you be able to email out to all the participants after as a follow-up?
Yes, so I will be, this webinar was recorded, so everybody will receive a link to G Drive where they'll be able to download the webinar and have that for their record, so they can go back through all of these questions that were asked and reach out to Ira when they're ready to get started on making this happen in their backyard.
Okay, great. And Ira's information, contact information, and our contact information will be on that email as well, right?
Yes,
Samir?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So this is going to be coming directly from Zoom, but you're going to see the contact information for everybody. And then you're going to have that link. So look out for that email. I'm going to be sending that out today. And that would be it. I leave everything to you.
Awesome. We look forward to our next webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ira. Thank you so
guys. Hey,
much.
Sue, I want to
Thanks,
say
guys.
hi.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Glad
Hi,
you could join us.
Sue.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. See you guys.